Hi, this is Dr. Rebecca Wood, and I would like to welcome you to English 2025 Introduction to Literary Studies. I'd like to start out with some important information. Our class will be conducted 100% online through Blackboard. Please read the syllabus carefully and post your introduction to the class on the discussion board as soon as possible. Lectures will be posted in each weekly module. They will be posted in video form and also in PowerPoint form, so please view the lecture at the beginning of each week. Each week we will have at least one additional YouTube video and several web links to view to enhance our learning experience. Please make sure to experience all of those materials. Please complete your reading assignments by Wednesday each week, and please check your SLU email daily in case there are important updates about our class. For a successful class, please check your course schedule to make sure you know what the start date is for the class. Week 1 is already available. Please post your introduction to the class, as I said, on the Blackboard discussion board as soon as possible. The due date for that is posted on the course calendar. Please read your syllabus carefully, including the course schedule and calendar, and make sure and let me know if you have any questions. You can post those questions on the question and answer discussion board, or you can email them to me. It is highly recommended that you print the course calendar and keep it in an easily accessible place. And students will be expected to participate regularly each week on the Blackboard discussion board and to complete quizzes, assignments, and the final exam by the deadlines in our course schedule calendar. This term will be a literary buffet. We'll start with short stories, which are usually short and are stories about characters going through a setting and things happen to them, and that's the plot. So people have been telling stories since there were people, and stories can help people understand the world, and they can entertain and or instruct. Poetry, we'll do that next. Many early stories were written in verse, such as the Iliad and the Odyssey. And poetry can be a few short lines or an entire book, like the Iliad and the Odyssey. Drama. Drama are stories brought to life on a physical or virtual stage. And so if you've seen a play, watched a television show, those are ways that you can experience drama. What is a short story? They are generally considered to be fiction, not a strictly true story. So they're imaginary stories about people that don't really exist, but often they're based on situations that the author has experienced in their life, or possibly things that they've imagined that they would either like to experience or not like to experience. Fiction often contains truth, even though it is not strictly true. A short story is not a novel or a book. If the story gets to be too long, then it becomes a book. There are certain short forms called novellas that are somewhere between a story and a book, and there's all kinds of interesting little arguments about when a story becomes a novella or a book. Characters. Most stories have a protagonist, often referred to as the hero, and an antagonist, often referred to as the villain. And so those are kind of two-dimensional ways of looking at some of the characters in a story. There are usually secondary characters as well that play a part in the action or the plot. And then the setting. The setting can sometimes be the most important element of the story. The first week's reading includes, or actually the story that we're reading in the first week is The Cask of Amontillado by Edgar Allan Poe, and the setting is very important in that story. And then the plot. What happens in the story? There are certain stories that don't appear to have any plot whatsoever. However, this week we are not going to have that type of story. And then theme. Does the story have a message or a deeper message, or what is the story trying to tell us besides just taking us through an adventure or showing us a situation we may not have experienced before? And then once we've studied some short stories, we certainly can't study every short story ever written. That would take years. So we'll go on to poetry. And some of the earliest known poetry was recited verbally and was later committed to text. This poetry also told a story and might be the story of a culture's origin or its downfall, such as the Iliad and the Odyssey, which were written down at some point in Greek literary history, and they were credited to a person or persons that were called Homer. We really will never know who exactly Homer was, or the Aeneid. The earliest known poem in English is the lengthy epic poem Beowulf. And so another word for a really long poem that is really book length is epic. And it's often about battles and, cultures rising or falling, such as, again, the Iliad, the Odyssey, and the Aeneid. Most poetry, though, is much shorter, and there are multiple poetic forms, and we'll study some of those this term. Drama. The word drama has many meanings, including the modern meaning of unnecessary excitement in one's life, so hopefully we're not going to get into too much of that sort of thing this term. The earliest dramas were performed as a quasi-religious experience, at least according to us, quasi-religious, highlighting the Greek gods and their influence over the world in plays like Oedipus Rex. The most famous dramatic author in English is William Shakespeare, whose plays are performed to this day. We will be exploring his play A Midsummer Night's Dream this term. When you're reading literature, and we're starting out with short stories, which in many ways are pretty user-friendly, take your time reading. You don't want to rush through the catacombs in the cask of Amontillado. You might trip. You might touch something damp. Look up the words you don't know. You can use either a substantial dictionary or Google.com. You might have to read a story or poem more than once to understand what happened. You might want to read it several times to catch the rich details. Some of the works that we're going to read this term include some really beautiful writing and descriptions. Take notes while you read. Reading literature out loud can help. It can also be entertaining for your family and pets. I know that my dog really enjoyed listening to me read Beowulf out loud. Our textbook, Reading and Writing About Literature, has some excellent information about the role of good reading. How to write about literature. Your thoughts, ideas, and analyses are the most important part of any class assignment, whether it be a discussion board post, a short essay in a quiz, or an academic paper. Understand your material. Read it more than once if necessary. Make sure that you kind of have an idea of who is in the story and what happens to them. What did they do or what was done to them? Pick out some really great passages that support why you like those passages. When writing an academic paper, create a topic that you like first, a topic that you're interested in, and then fight for your point of view. One of my very favorite papers that I wrote was about Roman history, and I discovered the Romans were not very nice people. So I wrote my paper in Roman history about Cleopatra, who was actually not Roman, but her civilization was conquered by Rome. And then document every single word and every single fact from your research. Careful documentation is worth its weight in gold, or at least Amontillado. And here's my instructor contact information if you need to contact me. My email address, I check my email at least twice a day. My cell phone number, you can call me or text me. If I'm not available to answer your call or text right away, I will do so later. If you text me at 2 a.m., I will not text you back. I will wait until the next day, for example. We have office hours by appointment, although those are typically virtual office hours. And please email or text if you have questions. And I'm really looking forward to working with all of you this term. Thank you. Bye-bye.